Breakers, I am tired. And after absolutely losing my mind again over every aspect of this game, I've started to see the patterns. I'm starting to understand the way the world works. All the wording on the localization translation in this game makes a lot more sense when, sprawled out in a series of corkboards and city maps. But I get it. So I want to share what I get with you. And in this case, I want to try to explain every single part trait possible on your parts. Not ability capsules, that'll be another time. Oh god. This one's pretty easy to organize. So, starting with the head, I'm going to be fusing a crap ton of 5-stars together till I get the entire list. And then I'll go down one by one and explain what exactly it does and if I think it is a good trait. Trust me, don't. Whatever you feel like. I'm sitting on like 180 hours of this game, so I hope I know what I'm doing. And let's begin with head. So, traits possible on head are displayed before you. HP recovery when enemy is defeated. That should speak for itself. When enemy is defeated, 10% HP back at max level. That's pretty dang good. You can stack this quite a bit on quite a few other part slots. Honestly, while it is always a good thing to have, it doesn't help with bosses, except for Neo Zeong. I actually don't know if that works on its hands. I'll have to check that. But as you get higher up, you start maxing out your HP, you start getting HP per second, HP per hit. This is less vital. Still really good to have. HP capacity. Exactly what it sounds like. You get that much more HP. Now, with the advent of ability capsules later in the game, the skill becomes redundant entirely. There is an HP cap. It is sitting at something like 1,800,000 or something. It'll glow bright yellow and tell you you've hit it. And it is not hard to get with 1 or 2 ability capsules that get you 200 plus or more HP percent. That said, it's still great to have up to that point. And once you do start getting those ability capsules that you can slot in, you can start trading out some of these HP capacities for lower, different skills until you hit that soft one. HP recovery when parts lost. I hate these traits so much, but I understand how they're worded now. So if it says, when parts lost, that's going to refer to parts on an enemy being ejected. And in this case, most of the percent back on health. In big mobs of enemies, part outs are going to be pretty common. All it takes is, 12 to 13 regular hits with a weapon to part out. Or skills are a hell of a lot better in doing so. There's some skills that are instantly part out a creature, Gunpla, and gets you, 4 or 5 instances at once. Not quite as good as something like Recover on Hit. I'd call that a lower priority than others. It's a nice gimmick, but there's better things you can do with parts lost. Item drop quality, exactly what it says. The quality of the items drop is going to be improved. Better chance at 4 stars, 5 stars, good traits, decent ability capsules, stuff like that. That said, technically everything is farmable with time, and it's not actually necessary in any way. And with only being 10% what you can find it on multiple slots, you also get the same bonuses from your break combos, and I'm not sure if that stacks, but these are pretty low down on my importance list. Recover HP on attack hit. Fantastic. Oh my god, this thing's fantastic. Use a rapid fire weapon like Serpent Double Gatlings, and you get half your health back with a single use of it. Now, it's not doing anything for you until you actually hit something, but there's always going to be an opportunity for that in this game. This is probably, in my opinion, the best of the healing skills. Near death, remaining HP percent. So what this does is take the normal near death HP amount that other traits will trigger off of, when near death attack up, stuff like that, and it raises the threshold. In this case at max, it will treat it as if it were 34% instead of the base 5, 10? 5 or 10, much lower than 34%. Give you more wiggle room to activate those traits without making yourself half to death. There's a few other ways you can kind of boost this up even more. It's a gimmick. It's a gimmick you honestly don't need with the difficulty of the game. It's there nonetheless. Nothing that I feel like you really need to min-max this in for content difficulty level is anywhere that you're going to want to be at that low HP at any given time. Max duration break combo is, as it sounds, increases the duration of your break combo bar by another 5% and gives you more leeway to get that next break. It's fine. If I got nothing else to slot in, sure, let's go for it. Extended activation awaken. That is increasing the duration of your awaken bar. So when you activate your awaken and go into your awakening, this just means it drains 10% slower. Awaken gauge increased performance. Any action that will increase your awaken bar, increase it that much better. It's okay. If you're gonna, build to being an awaken 24/7, or build to constantly have awaken to use burst attacks constantly, it's pretty okay. Recovery speed rescue. You pick people off the floor 10% faster. Trash. Time reduction charge. Any action that you would need to charge for, whether that's a Virtue Bazooka Big Ball, or a Axe charge-up attack, or a Lance charge-up attack, 10% less time to charge. When you stack 3, 4, 5 of these babies in other parts, mwah. I don't know if you can get 5, but still, this is noticeable when you stack them up. I like this a lot. If you're going to be using those kinds of attacks, it's definitely worth it in value. HP recovery per second. I really hope I don't have to explain this. If you're at max level, you get 1 HP percent per second, so 100 seconds, you'll be at full HP. It's nice to have it tick in the background, but I wouldn't really, grab more than 2 of these at most, or even more than 1, really. It's even 5% per second's not, it's fast, but you're taking up valuable trade slots for something you can get with on hit. Item drop rate, again, something you don't technically need, and it's fine, I guess. A break booster accomplishes the same thing without a trade slot. And then item drop rate quality. It's a combo of both, but having only a third of the effect. If you're really trying to go all in on farming a lot of good parts for some reason, instead of just playing the same mission twice, that's an avenue. I don't recommend it. Max duration hit combo is just like the max duration break combo. Just increases the time you have with that hit combo before it depletes. And reaction speed performance. Something that I would say, if you're building for reaction speed, which most people will be, slap onto every single head. The head itself is the part that denotes the reaction speed. Where did I just put it? And having extra reaction speed on top of that, 129 to 141%, it's pretty noticeable. Reaction speed, of course, is how fast you attack, whether that be shooting or melee. It speeds up your animations. The ceiling is 200. You start at 100. 140 is pretty dang nice. So I'm going to move on to the other parts now. And to build these lists to talk about, I'm going to fuse a crap load of 5 stars. And so you don't have to sit here and watch me do that. I'm either going to cut or fast forward through the video until I have the list up. So I will see you in a minute on the body side. Okay, so we're back on torso. This took me a little longer than I wanted because autism or some kind of mental deficiency demanded that I fill these 2 traits out to 30, but I eventually got bored. Torso has a lot of defensive skills. Some of them good, some of them not. So, I've already talked about item drop rate, quality combo, and charge. I think that's trash. I think that's fantastic. I think recover HP on hit is great, and if you can stack it, do it to it. Thruster gauge consumption boost minus 10% is actually a pretty solid skill, though as your thruster gauge capacity goes up with the part level, you you are going to see a significant jump in gauge, which you'll never be able to spend in any reasonable scenario. I mean, look at that. You go from 11,000 to 50k. You're never going to actually spend that much gauge. Flinch gauge. This is weird. So, there's no way for you to see it. There's no way for you to interact with it. There's no way for you to do anything with it. But you have an invisible flinch gauge that will drain as you get hit, and when it empties, you will flinch. You will notice there are times where you can take 1 or 2 hits and not flinch until the 3rd or 4th hit comes in, and then you finally have the animation. Their capacity just means you can take more hits before you flinch. I don't know what 10% entails, since I cannot see the gauge or interact with it. I don't know how significant that is. I assume that just, you know, for every 10 attacks, you have 1 extra hit before it matters. Trash. HP recovery when parts lost. Did we talk about this in the head? I don't remember. But when enemy loses part, yes we did. When enemy loses part, you get healed. Not as great as on hit. Flinch gauge recovery speed, 50% faster. That sounds like a big number. I still have no idea if that's relevant or not. So, yeah, cool. I'm never going to put it on my bar. Flinch damage defense. You take less flinch from hits on your gauge that you can't see. Sick. Max duration break combo. Item drop. Item drop rate. Parts loss defense is not a terrible trait. So it's a cousin to parts loss attack. Parts loss defense is, by all accounts, as much testing as we can do with it, increasing your resistance to losing parts yourself. That parts loss first qualifier makes it different from the enemy losing parts. Until it's not. We'll cross that bridge later. But parts loss defense, simply put, is you take more abuse before you lose a part. If I have an extra slot in my body, I will consider that, because parts loss is annoying. But in high-level play, you're not going to be taking hits if you can help it. So ultimately, it's going to fall off as a useful trait. Recovery speed rescue, straight to the floor with the guy who's still sitting there. Sorry, Tao. And then HP recovery enemies defeated, HP recovery per second we've already dealt with. I will see you on the next hand. Okay, we are on right arm, which is going to be identical to left arm, so we're going to save some time there. Arm, of course, responsible for your HP, your defenses. Let's see. So, item drop rate we discussed, recovery HP on hit we discussed. Awaken gauge increase over time. 10% faster over time is pretty dang good. Normally your awaken gauge will just increase as you are standing there. 10% is not terrible. I mean, that means if it takes you 100 seconds to get it, it's only 90. I can see that shaving off some, you know, some niche uses. If you're really building for Awaken, something to consider. Time reduction charge makes it come back, and HP capacity, great for stacking. Flinch damage defense is a piece of crap. Parts loss defense, we've already discussed in the previous part. Awaken gauge increase hit number. So, this one's weird. Pretty much what it's trying to say. I'm trying to think of a good way to word this. I love these are unscripted, don't you? It's kind of like Awaken Gauge performance, but on the other end of it, instead of increasing how much you get off of certain actions, it is reducing the amount of total actions needed. It's all relative in a sense that if you're doing performance up or increase hit number down, it's reducing the amount of things you need to do to get there. It's all the same in that regard. I mean, still, throw it on if you got the slot and you're really building towards Awaken. I don't think it's as necessary as others. The rest we've talked about. Near death, which is redundant with other near deaths. Awaken gauge increase in parts lost. HP recovery in parts lost. HP recovery rescue. Awaken gauge increase when damaged. Ideally, you don't want to be damaged. So in the end, this is one of those traits that might be good climbing your way through missions. But once you get to the later missions, you don't want to get hit at all. So I guess it can be used for an emergency get out of jail button. If you're caught in like a big beam droby or something and you need to pop your awakening to just get out of there and with the iframes and just, heal. It's something. Awaken gauge increase when enemy is defeated. That's actually really great. You're going to be tearing through mobs left and right. They already give a good chunk of awaken when you defeat them. And 10% more, or more if you stack with other versions of it. Solid. I got no complaints. Moving on to legs, since we will see the same thing on the other arm. Okay, now looking at legs. Most responsible for your movement speed and your HP. Awaken gauge increase hit number we've talked about. That's weird. Awaken gauge increase on enemies defeated we said is good. Time reduction charge again. I'll use it. I'll stack them all day. The new stuff for the legs is going to be pretty much just movement speed run. Oh, also awaken gauge increases when parts out. So let me just explain this real quick. When parts lost, this is referring to enemy parts, and what it's also referring to is when an action would cause a part out on an enemy, you get 10% more awaken gauge from that action. I did quite a few trials with it. Let's say, for example, these aren't exact numbers, but just something I'm making up. If it takes 42 hits to fill my awaken gauge, normally just hitting an enemy, while I have parts out toggled off, then when I toggle on parts off, and I have this trait, it's now suddenly taking 37, 38 hits. Every time I would get a part out, I get 10% more awaken from that hit than I would normally. It's not bad. Like, if you're going to be doing parts out left and right, if you're building for awaken, it's going to build up your awaken. I think that's pretty damn solid. And then movement speed run. Running is anytime you're not boosting. So, never. It's cool, but there's no real reason to use this. Almost every action can be performed while running or boosting, and those that cannot don't let you move anyway. Kind of a dead trait. Moving on to backpacks. Backpacks. So, HP capacity we know is pretty dang good. Thruster gauge capacity is okay. Time reduction charge, I'm a fan. Movement speed boost. So anytime you're holding down that X button, boosting around the screen. That's actually pretty useful in some cases. It lets you perform some really high speed maneuvers. But 10% is not a whole lot. If you can get a couple sources of that, maybe ability caps and stuff, might be worthwhile. Duration break combo, we know what that's about. Decent. Thruster gauge recovery speed. I do not think this is a good trait. Almost solely because you are almost never going to actually deplete your thrusters in any situation where you'll need that 10% speed back. It's just not going to happen. Max duration hit combo. How long you have on that gauge till the hit combo goes down. Oh no. Movement speed step. This one took some work to figure out. Step is their term for dodge when they don't say dodge. They use both. It's inconsistent. Drives me crazy. It's how fast you are moving when you are dodging. Da-da-da-da-da-da. I had to bring up a stopwatch to figure this crap out. I didn't drop right. I talked about being near bottom. HP recovery is decent. HP when defeated, a little more than decent. Recover HP on attack hit, amazing. Movement speed ground dodge, specifically for dodging on the ground and not on the air. There are air dodges. You can unlock them with ability modules, capsules, whatever you want to call them. But this trait will not affect them. You have to be planted to get that extra speed. It does stack up with step. HP recovery when parts lost. Yeah, if you're breaking parts, it's actually pretty good, but it's not something I'd, generally throw on there. Item drop quality, recover speed rescue, sorry Tal, stay on the ground. Vulnerability time step. So when you do your step, when you do your dodge, you do have a small window of iframe from it. This increases that window. Now this window is incredibly small. It is almost nothing, and this brings it to a little over nothing. Frankly, it's never anything you rely on when you can just block or not be in the area of the attack. Not great. Thruster consumption, ground dodge. Same thing. Doing a ground dodge, left to right, back to forth, takes up less gauge. Okay, but you're not really going to be. Movement speed, air dodge. The opposite of ground dodge. It still stacks with step, and it does the same thing but in the air. Invulnerability time, ground air dodge. It stacks with the other ones, yada yada, you know the drill. Thruster gauge consumption for step, takes up less gauge overall. And near death, of course, we already know what that is. Thruster gauge consumption, I'm assuming this is air dodge, the one we're missing, yep. And then item rate drop quality, which I still think is not worth it in any way, not worth the slot. And now the one I've been dreading. Weapons. There's entirely too many traits on weapons. I will see you in a minute. Okay, I think that's all of them. I'm not going to max their levels, it's going to take way too long, but you get the idea what it is. All of these general traits maxed out at 10%. You get it by now. So, attack power, weapon category, weapon skill. This simply put gives you that much more damage on a weapon in that slot. In this case, right long rifle. So as long as you have this on one of your two weapons, any long rifle in your right hand is going to get the bonus damage. If it's on the weapon in your left hand, make sure you have a long rifle on your right. If it's on the long rifle on your right, cool, it's juicing itself. If it's on a machine gun in your right hand, it's a dead trait. Attack power guided missile EX. Any EX with the guided missile type gets the boost. If you're curious what a guided missile is, I have a 30-minute video explaining it because there's no better way to do it. Feel free to pop on and view that in the playlist. I lied, it's only 20 minutes. Please don't not look at it because it's lame. I work so hard. Long range gauge capacity. Right long range weapon, left long range weapon. These are your bread and butters. If I were to call anything a shot package, a shot suite, it would be part of this. The few things shot focus builds are really lacking is the infinite use of the primary weapon like melee builds. This helps change that. So, your long range gauge is that blue bar that denotes how many shots you have left till your gun's empty and has to reload. This is improving the length of that bar. Great. Even if it's only 5%, you are still adding in maybe 1, 2, 3 more shots. With something fantastical like a hard-hitting long rifle, every shot matters. EX gauge increase enemy defeated. We've talked about this. That's good. It gives you more gauge when you blow someone up. That's good. Long range gauge capacity left long rifle. This is a specific version of this trait. So long range weapon will be any gun. Long rifle is now specifically targeting a certain weapon type. These do in fact stack. So if you're using a pair of long rifles like I do, specifically the Tyrion Taozai smoothbore is my favorite, these will stack together. I mean, that's capacity and that's power, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying. Left capacity, left long range. Those will stack together. Attack power is on the same thing. You get more power from a right long range weapon or a left long range weapon. And, you know, it doesn't matter what arm it's on, the appropriate one will get the power. Long range EXs are pretty much any EX that scales off a shot. We've discussed this in the EX and option video. And it stacks with everything else on here, so if you're playing shot, yeah, throw it on if you're actually using your EXs for damage. If you're using them for just installs and defense and stuff, that's a different story. Guided missile option attack is EX but in option form. Long range gauge capacity, right long rifle, you get what that's about. Long range weapon, you get what that's about. Pretty much it's a universal version of these lefties and righties. and it will stack. It just goes up to a smaller threshold. I believe you only get like 4 or 5% out of it, as opposed to the full 10 of the other ones, or maybe like 4.5 as opposed to 5 or something. Either way, it does stack. It's cool to have. Long range gauge recovery speed. So when that gauge does go down from you taking shots, it'll go up at a fixed rate. This increases the speed rate at which that gauge refills. You reload faster. Is good. Attack power Vulcan. It's actually probably something I need to slot into a lot of parts now, since I figured out what Vulcans are. It is not just head Vulcans, but it is anything that fires a stream of bullets. Whether that's heavy armed beam Gatling, or it's head Vulcans themselves, or it's chest machine guns off of Blue Destiny. It's anything like that with those icons as Vulcan. Actually, probably one of the most comprehensive and useful ones on here. Cooldown reduction long range option. If it's an option that seals off a shot, it gets a reduction in cooldown. Sick. Like, all of these are build dependent. All of these are solid. We know what's up here. Attack power guard gauge. So, if you have noticed, when you attack an enemy, they can block. When they do block, it's annoying, but if you hit them enough, their block can break. This means you do more damage to that gauge of theirs when they are blocking. You cannot see it, but it does work. I have had some success testing it. And it's not a vital trait in any way. The ability to just shoot them again if they're blocking, or hit them again if they're blocking, is just as good as wasting a slot on this. I get the idea, but I honestly don't think it's that swell. It's not like we have dedicated blocking units out there. Attack power long range weapon speaks for itself. Any long range weapon, any gun gets boost. Specific ones, injection options, which we know are options that you can feed in extra shots for. I have the hell did I say the option versions are? Oh, railguns. Railguns, for example, the Shiva railgun, the Freedom railgun, those that you can hold down for additional shots happen to be injection. Not to be confused with Barrage, which is like Shining Shot in the arm, or the new Gundam shield, which is, I don't know if it's beam and physical split, it might be, but they're a whole nother kettle. Cooldown reduction when parts lost. This is for enemy parts. Just clarifying again, anything that's call in when parts lost as a condition is enemy parts. So when you break an enemy part off, any option skill currently on cooldown gets a little bit of a boost. Solid. Cooldown reduction for buff options. Attack power at low health. This is the thing I was talking about that low health threshold can qualify for. You can get up to a 10% boost in attack while you're at low health, and using that aforementioned skill to increase the threshold of your critical low health means it activates easier. Gatling bazookas, machine guns, funnel EXs, and it's funnel's a funnel. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Cancel combos. This is a funny one. So cancel skills. Cancel combo means if you are doing a attack action and you cancel it into an EX or an option, you get bonus damage. It's not every EX or option, but it's most of them. It works on nuclear bazooka or atomic bazooka. It works on Z-Shi, Kasai, Cool Ranch, Dorito leg missiles. It works on it's missiles again, but on the option side. It works on Grimoire Red Beret Scissor Leg Kick. It does not work on grabs. I have not figured out why yet. I thought it was the delay between you canceling your combo into that and the activation of the skill. But then it works on Nuke, which is this is slow, so I don't know what's going on there. But you can see a demonstration of what Cancel EX Boost is over on my EX and Option category video. This is the same thing. Anything that you cancel into gets a boost. A pretty decent one, actually. Extended activation for Hypertrance. Left long rifle, EX gauge increase energy defeated. We love that one. You know, specific stuff again. Support off, ejection. Attack power parts lost. Been waiting for this one. This is worded funky, and it is essentially reducing the amount of times you have to hit a dude to knock off his parts. You're increasing the power of your hits to knock off parts. In testing, I can consistently, without a max version of this on, knock off someone's part in 12 to 13 hits. With it on, I'm only looking at 10 or 11, consistently. I don't think it's great. I think you're going to be hitting dudes so much, I think you're going to be killing them more often than not. I don't think this is ever going to add up in any meaningful way to be worth a slot. Barrage options, which I talked about, crappy. Cooldown reduction of Vulcan specifically. Attack power auto-fire EXs, which are the guys that fire for you, like Psycho Zaku back or Hazel Legs. Cooldown reduction on throws. Attack power on traps. Gauges, beam blasts. All of this is pretty self-explanatory from what I've said so far. Honestly, any of these that affect specific certain skills or weapons are really going to come down to if you're using them in those builds. It's all subjective. Skill cooldown reduction, though, is not. This is actually pretty cool. It just gives you a flat reduction on every option skill you're using, regardless of category. If you're already using a reduction on a specific category, this can pair with it. This can stack with it. Give you a little more action on it. Definitely something worth considering. Okay, melee. So we're going to see a lot of overlap in thoughts, what we saw on Shot a moment ago, moment to you, and eternity for me. Pretty much, if you are using these specific types of weapons, they're worth slotting these traits, or EXs, or options. This can be highly subjective. Attack power right close range weapon. Any melee weapon in your right hand is getting a boost. Attack power right axe, specifically an axe in the right hand is getting a boost. If this is on a left hand whip, make sure you have an axe in your right hand. If this is on an axe in your right hand, it's getting itself juiced. If this is on a lance in your right hand, it's a dead trait that you can fuse onto something else. EX increase enemies defeated, we like. But when defeated with EX skill is a little more niche. Honestly, if you're using your EXs often, this can be effective to refeed those EXs. Atomic Bazooka is something that I use often as part of my build, my strat on range. I put all my resources to get into 3 bars to clear waves all at once with it. I would use this. I would love to get a refund on my bazooka by destroying them with a bazooka. Sometimes I can make it so I only spend less than a bar if I have 2 melee weapons with this on and I take out enough dudes. I can see the use. Now, enemy defeated with Ground Slam, I definitely can't see as much use. Now, there are builds that you can make that excel exclusively on parting out people, so all they're left with is that torso that you can ground break. But I think that's so niche, this is definitely not a great trade. EX gauge increase in parts lost. Again, calling parts lost as enemy lost. This is fantastic. You're going to be blasting parts off left and right, even by accident as the game goes on. Throw this thing on. Throw it on your melee, it'll pay for itself and then some. Number 1, let's go. Skill cooldown reduction option, of course, every option skill gets a cooldown. Cooldown reduction when enemy is defeated. Great, that affects all your options, we like that. EX gauge increase when enemy is defeated. It's partner. Pretty cool. Specific traits for specific weapons, whether it be right lance, melee, left lance, stuff like that. So two-handed weapons such as melee, greatsword, claw, martial, stuff like that. They don't get specific boosts, but they do get the general boosts. Close range weapon will affect it, but left close range, right close range will not. Cancel EX, we've talked about this before. Attack power cancel EX. It's just like cancel combo, but only for EXs. So cancel combo, option, or EXs, if If you do that, you know, 1 or 2 melee hits, or 1 or 2 shots, and then immediately activate the skill, it'll get bonus damage. You're canceling into it. Attack Power Cancel EX only works on EXs, but they do stack. Wild Dance I made an entire video on because I hate it. Buff, low health, just like on the shot side. Attack Power Parts Loss we talked about before, which is how effective you are in knocking off the other dude's parts. I don't think it's worth it. Attack Power at low health, which is going to give you a boost based on your low health threshold that you can raise with other traits. Cooldown reduction for movement options, which is anything like the rollerblades that just move you from A to B. Not bad. Attack Power Guard Gauge and Flinch Gauge. That is essentially having you deal more damage to their invisible guard gauge and their own invisible flinch gauge. You might notice some master grades have a sort of super armor that as you hit them, they do not immediately flinch until you really lay it on. This will help you do so. Though I think that's bad. I just don't think you're going to be using it enough and encounter enough situations to be worth taking up on your 8 slots. Cooldown reduction pull-in, Wild Dance, you know what all these do. If you're using these skills, they are worth slotting. But it's really all subjective to your build. Cooldown reduction when parts lost, also great. Because that means any option that's on cooldown is going to get a little bump up to 10% extra when you part out on another guy. But I think this is much, much less good. Less good or less better. Better or lessen than the EX version. The EX version, you're always going to be building stocks. The option version only really affects if you have an option on cooldown, which is not always the case. And 10% of that gauge is not a whole lot. Finally going to see you in shields. Okay, we're back with shields. Finally, we can go over shields. Guard gauge capacity. As you block attacks, you'll see a little meter show up in the middle of your screen that will deplete from both sides towards the middle. It'll deplete as you block attacks. When it reaches the middle, a little guard crush icon is there. You will become guard crush. You'll be unable to guard for a period and you'll be stunned and open to damage. This increases the amount of abuse I can take. That's not worth it. Recover HP on attack hit, I already said, is one of the top tier traits in the game. Stack it where you can. HP capacity is cozy, but like I said on the head, eventually you're going to run into ability capsules that are going to, or ability modules rather, that are just going to replace it outright. Shield also contains long-range gauge recovery speed, like your gun did. So if you want to double up on that, it's a good place to. HP recovery when enemy is defeated, solid. Damage reduction critical condition. When you're in that low health state, which you can adjust with those prior traits of near death, you get a defense boost. It's not a great defense boost. I honestly don't think you want to be in that state in the first place. If you have nothing better to slot on, sure. Flinch gauge, again, the flinch gauge is something completely imaginary that I cannot interact with, so I don't even know if this is great or not, and I hate that. Damage reduction on guard. There is both a physical and a beam version of this, and while blocking, you reduce the amount of damage of each by 10%. This actually has some potential, because there exists an ability you can unlock in the ability modules called Auto Guard. It works just like it did in SD Gundam Battle Lines. Anytime that you would take a hit and you're in a position to block, as in you're not already performing an action, you will block automatically. These traits, plus that ability, actually make a super solid wall strat, since you can combine these with things like eye fields and Chobam, or other defensive bubbles, to get huge damage reduction. Now, I don't know if there's a place in the game for that kind of play. Generally, you don't get hit if you're playing well, and when you do get hit, you'll have enough HP by end, it won't be a problem. But you can make a tank, and that's cool. Flinch gauge recovery speed, again, I don't know if 50% is actually as great as it sounds, because I can't see the flinch gauge. Thanks, guys. Damage reduction on guard, physical beam, there's a combined version of them. Super cool. run this, run this, run this, run auto block, you have a solid defense. Damage reduction for each enemy targeting you as well. So if you're the only dude on the board, you're getting some big boosts. Honestly, I have not super tested this in length, but if it works like everything else, this can get you some huge defense potential. I think this whole suite would be fantastic for survival if all your traits aren't super up to snuff, you're not confident in your ability to stay alive. This will keep you alive. Flinch damage defense in the trash. Guard gauge recovery speed. Honestly, that 50% is pretty fast. If you're going to be running the auto guard strat, this is something to consider. Because anytime you do get hit with the auto guard, you're going to want to make sure that comes back fresh so you don't get broken eventually. HP recovery when you part out an enemy. Absolutely. It's going to happen a lot. Cool. Increase your defense to losing parts. Not a fan. Like I said last time we saw it, ideally you're not going to be in a situation where this comes up a lot. If you are, that 10% is not going to make a difference. And then long range gauge capacity and long range gauge cost, which is going to be, of course, how big your bar is and how much each one of your shots reduces it by. It's just like on the weapons, the guns, and you can double dip them here too. So your shield can also be a gun support as opposed to just a straight defensive measure. And oh my god, I made it within the hour. That is every single trait on every part that you have available. What they do and what I think about them. Yikes. Any questions, please hit comments. Please hit the Discord. Please hit us up and just chat. I like talking to you guys. All of this, of course, is eventually going to go into the spreadsheets that CrashBrand is making. I just want to go through verbally and try to explain what all of these do while I have an opportunity. Thank you for hanging. Be excellent.